Now we're rolling. Damage Plan MMA podcast. I am Jason, and I have a new co-host today because Zack we fired him. We didn't want to deal with this crap anymore. So, no, seriously, Zack is doing a family trip up to Idaho. So have a safe trip up there, Zack. And I am being joined by Mr. Blake O'Rulian, who, if you were listening to the Fierce Fighting or Fierce Challenger series broadcast, they got to hear your voice. Blake, welcome to the podcast, man.
Well, I am very happy to be back. It's nice. Today I actually get to be a little bit more of a fan rather than a broadcaster, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah. People need to go back and watch because you were pretty dang animated during the broadcast, and I loved it because I'm the same way. I get all hyped up, and it's like, oh, and there's a big knockout.
There's nothing like it. When Will Dean blew the roof off the place, I lost my voice for a couple days, and I host shows for Park City TV, and so it was really hard to host a couple shows when I got back to work that following Monday. So yeah, but hey, it's all worth it. That was by far the most fun I've ever had doing a broadcast. That was a blast. And Joel was so awesome, and it was so fun to do it with you. I really appreciate it, man.
So you and I only got to call one together, but June 25th, we get to do the whole card.
Dude, 3-man booth, sign me up. That is going to be such a blast.
Yeah, that one's going to be Fierce Fighting Championship 20 is going to be off the chain.
Cannot wait.
I don't know what the words are the kids use today, so I'm just going to say off the chain.
I'm getting to that point too, man. I'm 25 now, and I'm like, geez, I'm really getting old. I say like stupid stuff, and like my little brother-in-law who's like 14 is like, "What'd you just say?" And I'm like,
yeah, that's what my daughter does. She's like, "Dad, you don't say it like that." I'm like, "What is this?"
Yeah, I never know. I never know what's cool anymore, it's sad, but it's also like, oh wow, now I'm maybe like getting older. Who knows?
Zach chiming in to say I sound like I'm old. Oh, just wait. Zack sent me his picks, by the way, everybody. So I'll have Zack's picks so that I can razz on all of his crappy picks, and he can't say anything about it. I don't even have to show his comments on here.
I got to be honest. On the last one, last fight picks that you had, the conversation that you had with Zack, I got to take Zack's side on that. Like, Poirier and Chandler are very, very relevant fighters in the lightweight division, Jason. I got to come on Zack's side on that one. I got to be honest with you.
You have to realize that half the time I'm just saying it to get a rise out of Zack, to get him all riled up because it gets him all mad. And we're 30 miles away from each other, so I don't have to worry about him choking me out. I just let it ride.
Absolutely, just let it ride from a distance. From a distance.
I knew I liked you, Blake.
My guy Zack, I appreciate it, brother.
All right, man. Let's give everybody a little quick rundown on this card tomorrow night. UFC Fight Night. We got I just lost my train of thought. Volkov against Rozenstruik is the main event.
Yep.
We will start with the prelims. First fight of the night in the flyweight division. We got Aaron Blanchfield versus Jj Aldrich. Blanchfield, cold-blooded, coming in at 8-1. She stands 5'4" with a 68-inch reach. Jj Aldrich is 11-4. She stands 5'5" with a 67.5-inch reach. So pretty close with height and reach, but Blanchfield, a heavy favorite, coming in at -500, and the comeback is +360 on Aldrich. Talk to me, Blake. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I believe if I'm not incorrect on this, Blanchfield is the heaviest favorite on the card. She's one of those people that they're really going to try to start building up, kind of a Sean O'Malley type treatment where, she's going to have these big, heavy favored odds in these next couple of fights. Kind of reminds me of almost like a Macy Barber coming in the future where they're kind of like, this is someone who we really want to build around. 5 takedowns per 15 minutes and a 90% takedown accuracy. I mean, I don't think that there's any way that you pick outside of Blanchfield. She is definitely probably the heaviest favorite on the card, both on the numbers and also if you're just talking with your friends at a bar. That is the person that you want to look out for.
There's one other person that's a slightly heavier favorite on the card, but other than that, she's right up there.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, one other person's got her. There's Damon Jackson's -675 against Daniel Argueta.
That is. Yep. You're right. You're right.
So your pick is Blanchfield. Looking at Zack, he put Blanchfield by murder. That's what he put in his notes. It's not me saying this is Zack. So Facebook, put him in Facebook jail.
I will try to stay out of trouble on here too, but
I'm going to go with you. I love Blanchfield. I'm high on Blanchfield. I would not bet that at those odds. But yeah, I think she pretty much dominates this fight. Aldrich is going to have no answer for her on the ground.
And it really is like you have to think about just the technical level and styles make fights. And when you have such a dominant grappler versus someone who, has faced losses in the past, it's tough to say that, there's anything past that. What did Zack say here? Blake, you have to do one stint in Facebook jail before you do your time.
This is coming from somebody with maximum max. He's had multiple Facebook jails times in Facebook jail. Like, it's multiple times. He's a multiple offender. I mean, if there's a prison, Zack would be in that Facebook prison. Well,
I try to be as nice as I possibly can, as I try not to ruffle feathers. That's never been my style. But if I have to spend some time in Facebook jail to be talking to you and Zack on Damage Plan, I appreciate the time. So I'll take it.
Let's go to our next fight of the night in the welterweight division. We have the Spartan versus the Gladiator. Andres Michaladias against Ranat Fakhretdinov. I think I said that right. The Spartan is 13-5, stands 6 foot tall with a 75-inch reach. The Gladiator is 20-2. He stands 6 foot tall, and I do not have a list for his reach listed. But the Russian coming in at a minus 270 favorite. The comeback is plus 220. Now, I think I told you the rules before you came on the podcast. Zack and I don't bet against the Russian fighters. But I'm not saying I'm betting against him, but one thing that stands out to me, he is making his UFC debut against a guy that does have a little bit more experience in the UFC. Yeah. What's your take on this fight?
Well, Michaladias is very legit. I mean, his record is a little bit misleading. 13-5, however, a lot of those losses have come with good performances tallied behind them. He's done a very, very good job throughout his time in the UFC. The thing about this one is this one's going to be a barn burner. This is going to be a lot of fun. Both fighters, the Gladiator, 61% KO TKO average, and Michaladias at 54% as well. Both guys are pretty good submission artists as well, but with a 20-2 record, I mean, Henat looks pretty darn scary. I would have to say I'm going to go against Michaladias in this one, despite my what I've said prior to that. I've got to say Henat is probably going to be the one that gets the W in this one, considering his background. And also, it looks like, is he making his debut on this fight in
his UFC debut? Yep.
Yeah, yep. I believe so. And so, that being said, I think Henat's going to be one of those guys in a couple of years that we go, yeah, remember that? Remember when we were talking about what's going to happen in that fight? And it's like, he's blowing through the division now. So I think Henat's going to be one of those big names in just a couple of years here.
So I watched his last fight he had, it was about a year and a half ago now. Mm-hmm. It was for UAE Warriors and EFC, the Eagle Fighting Championship. So I think this was kind of like, I don't know all the details, but I'm pretty sure it was like right in the beginning of when Khabib was trying to set up his EFC, because Dana White was in attendance for that fight, and he ends up knocking the guy out in round 1. Mm-hmm. So,
61%.
We don't pick against the Russians for a reason on the podcast.
He is very legit. So it'll be exciting.
All right, let's go on to our next fight of the night. Where are we at? All right, this one is in the flyweight division. We got Jeff Molina versus Zhalgas Zhumagulov. Molina is 10-2, stands 5'6" with a 69-inch reach. Zhumagulov 14-6. He stands 5'4" with a 66-inch reach. We got Molina coming in at a slight favorite of minus 190, plus 160 is the comeback on Zhumagulov. El Jefe is the favorite.
Yeah, I mean, a minus 190 for Jeffrey Molina. I think that's a fair that's a fair rate for that. I do like the upset on this one though. I've watched a lot of Zhumagulov's fights. The guy's legit, and I mean, he does, at times get put in these barn burners and ends up losing fights. But for the majority of the time, I mean, he's coming off of a loss right now, but he's a really, really strong grappler, high fight IQ. This is his 21st fight, and he's really made an impact on the UFC. I mean, I know, again, he's lost fights, but that being said, when he grapples, he is a legit grappler. I really enjoy watching him fight. When he does get put in these barn burners, he does tend to kind of lean a little bit on his wrestling. That takedown accuracy at 21%. But I do think I like Zhumagulov on the upset on this one. I think that he takes care of business against Jeffrey Molina.
The first upset of the night. I like it. Like, I like it.
But here's the thing: if I'm saying something that's completely blasphemous, you come at me just as hard as you would come at Zack. I can take it. I can take it.
No, you know what? I don't really have a good read on this fight. I'm looking at my notes here from Zack, and Zack is on Jeff Molina. He fights out of Glory MMA, and that's one of the things we talk about on the podcast. We love the Glory MMA guys. They always come in, they always bring it. I think the odds are right on. I'm gonna go chalk on it with Molina. I don't really have a play on it money wise. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna sit back. I think it's gonna be a great fight, and yeah, let's James Cross for the win. Zack says.
Great camp out there.
But yeah, I could see this fight going either way.
Yeah, I've just been really impressed with Zhumagulov. I think he fights sometimes a little bit too recklessly, but when he's dialed in, he's a nasty grappler. He's fun to watch. That's one of the fights that when I was looking at this card, that one really flew off the page for me. So that one's gonna be fun.
Well, let's see if you get your first upset pick of the night.
I know I'm interested to see. I'm headed to Hawaii tonight. But I'll be watching the fights and making sure I'm keeping score. Yeah. So next time I'm here, I can come back with some receipts.
Well, you got to come back on. Well, you're going to be gone. I was going to say you got to come back on Monday and do the little recap video so that we can talk about the picks. But you'll be enjoying Hawaii. So, all right, let's go to our next fight of the night in the bantamweight division. We got Tony Gravely versus Johnny Munoz Jr. Gravely 22-7. He stands 5'5" with a 69-inch reach. Munoz Jr. is 11-1. He stands 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. So a little bit of height and reach advantage for Munoz. Gravely's slight favorite, -135. The comeback is +115 from Munoz. Who do you like in this one, Blake?
I understand the reason to have Gravely as the favorite. I mean, he lands more significant strikes per minute. He is a higher percentage of significant strikes landed, but he also takes a little bit more damage than your average fighter. Gravely averaging 3 significant strikes absorbed per minute. His defense definitely less of the, not his main priority when he's there in the cage. He is a really good grappler though. I mean, per 15 minutes averaging almost 7 takedowns. That's really tough to bet against. And when you have someone who has that kind of grappling pedigree, it's going to be hard for a guy like Johnny Munoz to be able to, count on that. But Johnny Munoz also no scrub on the ground. Per 15 minutes, he averages 2.66 submissions per 15 minutes. So who knows? Tony Gravely takes him down. Maybe Johnny Munoz is able to submit him. Now, as someone who loves jiu-jitsu and has been doing it for years at this point, when you're in MMA, when it's an MMA fight, jiu-jitsu is important to know. But if you can be a really good grappler, and if you have as many wins and the amount of experience that Gravely has, considering his style, I've got to go with Tony Gravely on this one.
Looks like Zack. That's Zack's pick. Gravely, experience and top pressure wins. I'm going to follow both of you guys on that pick. And we're going to say Gravely ekes out a win. I'm going to say by decision too. I don't know if you guys like that, but I like this fight going to decision.
I definitely think a lot of these fights are going to go to the decision, other than the one that I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of decisions. There's a lot of heavy grapplers on this one. But it's going to be a good fight no matter what. So it'll be interesting.
All right, let's go to our next fight in the lightweight division. Benoit Saint Denis, God of War, against Nicholas Stolze, Green Mask. Saint Denis is 8-1. He stands 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. Stolze 12-5. He stands 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. Pretty close on the odds. Saint Denis is a slight favorite at -155. The comeback is +135 on Stolze. Who are you liking on this one, Blake?
I like Benoit. I really like Benoit. That I think that his grappling is just going to be a huge problem for Nicholas. Is it Nick? I can't.
Nikolai Stolze.
Stolze? Yeah. I just think that he's going to completely smother him. He's got him beat out in almost every statistical category. And I think that I'm surprised at the odds considering that all being said, Nicholas coming off of a loss, Benoit as well. But I definitely think that this is someone who is in the same wheelhouse as Benoit. I think Benoit's just a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Benoit on this one too. I'm going to go with the chalk on this one. A little bit younger, but the guy's got 8 wins all by finish. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, almost all by submission. There might have been 1 or 2 punches in there. Yeah, triangle choke, punches, knee bar, arm bar, guillotine, rear naked choke. Like, the guy's finishing everybody.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that he tries to grapple with him, and I think he does it, exceptionally well, and he gets the job done there.
So Zack, according to Zack's notes, if you're a betting man, Zack likes Benoit by decision, and he says take the over in this. Mm-hmm. So what's the over in this? Let's look at this. Because I am a gambling man. I don't have odds for. It looks like you can get odds on over 1.5 rounds at -188, over 2.5 rounds that looks like around -110. But I only see a couple books, 5 Dimes, Betway are the only ones giving odds on that.
Yeah.
Fight goes to decision is +110. Ooh, plus money on fight goes to decision. So if you like that, you can get plus money at that.
Could be fun. Could be definitely a good one. If we're actually talking about bets, I think this next fight is one where you definitely want to think about where you're placing your money. I don't bet, but I have definitely consulted many of my friends who bet on fights who don't know a single fighter outside of Conor McGregor and Sean O'Malley. So yeah, I'm definitely aware of what the betting odds are, what's a good bet, what's a bad bet. I think this one with Damon Jackson and Daniel Argueta is going to be a good one. It's an interesting fight. Jason, do you have the money line over there? I know you have the official money line. I'm looking at a different money line, I think.
Yeah, so I have it on. So I'm on bestfightodds.com, and we got Damon Jackson. He's anywhere from -650 to -675. Mm-hmm. I'm looking. Zack thinks he's going to win by submission. If you like Jackson by submission, a couple places have it at plus money. A lot of the other places you're going to have to play the juice. You're going to be about -110. What do you like in this fight?
I from a betting standpoint, I just like the odds on Daniel. I don't necessarily think he wins the fight. I do think that you got a 20-4 guy in Damon Jackson who is experienced and has, dealt with his time here in the UFC. I don't think that Daniel is the guy that's going to beat him, but I do like the money line on it. I do think that's a good bet to place. An undefeated fighter, that's a huge line to have for an undefeated fighter. He is making his debut, but who knows? I look at this and I look at, I think of, if we're talking about the regional scene, I think of a guy like Mitch Ramirez. Like what if Mitch Ramirez was making that debut and you see Mitch Ramirez as a +450? Mitch Ramirez isn't a +450 against anyone. I don't know a single person who would make that bet. And so I think about the same thing here with Daniel. I think that maybe being counted out a little bit before, I do think that there's going to be a significant height difference here and a reach and a leg difference. And so I do think Jackson gets the win, but I think it's going to be a harder fight than what the money line says, if that makes sense.
You looking back over his record, and I'm talking about Daniel. He comes from the LFA scene. He's fought some tough guys on the LFA scene. He beat a 12-0 guy, beat a 14-6 guy, beat a 6-3 guy. So it's not like he's fighting slouches, but there's levels to this, Blake. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Damon Jackson on this one.
I agree. I completely agree with you. I do think it's Jackson. I think it's a little bit closer than we think, though. That's all I'm saying with that. But definitely, I'm going to go with Jackson as well.
I'm picking up what you're throwing down. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. All right. So next up, we have in the lightweight division, we got Joe Salecki versus Alex Da Silva. Salecki is 11-3, stands 5'9" with a 70.5-inch reach. Da Silva is 21-3. He stands 5'8" with a 73-inch reach. Both guys coming off a loss. Salecki, a slight favorite at minus 165. Da Silva, the comeback is plus 145. Who do you like in this one, Blake?
I do like Da Silva. I do. I'm looking a little bit at it, and I see where his wins are. He's well-rounded, but this is going to be one of those fights where, this one might trail out and be a little bit of it might be a third round or a second round, third round TKO or submission, because both these guys do not typically, finish their fights with a decision. Both guys have really, really solid records. I've liked what Joe Salecki has done in the past, but I do think Da Silva is still very much so someone who can compete at this weight class. On top of that, I do like the fact that Da Silva is the heavier fighter typically when he walks around, and also an advantage in reach for Da Silva as well. So I keep seeing all these things for Team Da Silva. So I'm going to have to go with him. I also see that the takedown defense of Salecki is worse than Da Silva's. And if this turns into a grappling match, you do want to be the guy on top, and the guy on top is typically the one who gets that takedown. So I'm going to have to go with Da Silva.
I'm going to have to follow you on this one, and Zack is actually going to go Joe Salecki on this one. So it's going to be you and I versus Zack on this one. So he's legit.
He is very, very much so legit. It'll be a good fight. I'm excited for it, and I think it's potentially going to be one of the best fights of the night.
I think it could be too. This one's going to be a good one. But I'm with you. I'm going Da Silva on that one. Zack has got Salecki, so we'll see if Zack's a loser on Monday morning.
This is so funny, like watching the comments come in like one at a time, and you just kind of start laughing, and everyone's like, "What are you laughing about?" It's like,
yeah. When we disagree, we have to bet. Should be bet bodies. Did you see that, Blake?
What about
it? Did you see the body shot? So Zack and I bet that I think it was the Volk and Ortega fight. So very rarely we disagree on fights all the time, but very rarely on like a main event. We're usually pretty much in agreement on it. But that one I'm like, Volk is going to beat Ortega. And he's like, nope, Ortega's going to win. So we bet the loser had to take a liver shot from Cole Faust. You know who Cole Faust is, right? 155 amateur champ.
I'm gonna get off now. I don't need to be on this podcast.
So you could probably just use your imagination and visualize how scared I was when that triangle choke was put on Volk. My wife's like, "You're gonna have to get punched in the stomach by Cole Faust." I'm like, "Oh no, this is gonna be bad."
Wait, is there video of this? I haven't seen this.
Oh, it's on video. Oh yeah, it's on our YouTube video.
Oh, but I gotta see this.
Oh, now I gotta tell you the Shuey story. So I bet against Tai Tuivasa, and my losing bet was I had to do a Shuey. So yes, there's a video of me doing a Shuey on my TikTok.
Oh, I love it. Oh man, I love it. That is hilarious.
So you said you're not a betting man, but if you feel really strong about something, Zack will obviously take you up on a bet. So
hey, I'm open to like a little like roll with either of you guys on a bet. I think that'd be super fun to do like a recorded like 5-minute round with both of you guys. I think that'd be super fun. I'm down to do other stuff. I don't know if I want to get punched in the stomach by one of the best amateur fighters in Utah. I definitely don't think that's something I want to do. But you must have been shaking in your boots when he dropped that mounted guillotine and then the triangle just minutes later. That was a crazy fight, man.
When my wife was like, "Oh my, you're gonna have to get punched." I'm like, "Oh no." Oh yeah.
Oh, I can't even.
I don't know what was worse though, the Shuey, because I don't drink. I'm not even a drinker, and I had to do a dang Shuey.
Oh, how was it? What was it even like? Was it your shoe? Was it a new shoe?
It was my shoe, and it was a new shoe that I'd never worn before.
Well, that's kind of nice. That's almost love you to death, man, but like that's kind of cheating. Like it's a new shoe. I mean, it's as clean as a cup.
It's a Shuey.
I know.
I did it. I paid up on my bet.
No, I'm totally kidding. That's super crazy though. I would, I'll hop in on some fun bets.
So stuff gets a little crazy on the Damage Plan MMA podcast.
Yeah. Anything that doesn't involve me getting suplexed by David Kim or a boxing match with Andrew Mickelson or something like that.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You guys have another guy fighting on, I think he's out of your gym. Who's the guy? I forget his name. What's his name? The guy that plays for BYU, that played for BYU.
Mickelson. It's Andrew Mickelson.
No, there's another guy. There's another guy that's making his amateur debut at Fierce Fighting Championship 20. I forget his name now. Zack will be listening and chime in. Kyle Griffiths. Kyle Griffiths. Yeah. He played tight end at BYU, and apparently
he's taking a fight.
He's taking a fight. Is that good or bad?
No, he's legit. Let me just double check if this is the person who I'm thinking about. So I moved in February, so I don't train at Agima anymore.
Yeah. So he played at BYU, tight end.
Yeah.
Apparently he was 240 pounds, 6'3", savage.
Okay, so I got a story for you about Kyle really quick if you want it.
Yes. Let's hear it, baby.
A fun little thing to talk about for the for opening up the card at the Maverick Center on June 25th. Kyle literally started training it was a very I'm trying to stay as neutral as I can. When you're the play-by-play guy, you have to try to stay as neutral as you possibly can. But just something about Kyle. Kyle was very, very recently starting jiu-jitsu. Okay. And within a couple of days, there was a Grappling Industries. Kyle signs up. He comes to me and he's like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what it's going to be like. I barely know jiu-jitsu. I know like one submission. Dude, he went and won gold. He went and beat out the entire division by submission on every single match that he had. The guy is a winner. He is legit. So I'm very excited. I didn't realize that he was taking a fight because I'm not at Agima every day anymore. I was there every day for years, but I'm not there anymore. Stay close with them. Stay friends with all of them, of course.
Yeah.
But definitely didn't know that Kyle was taking a fight. But man, oh man, that's going to be fun. I'm excited. Kyle is an interesting he's intense, man.
So we got to get him on the podcast.
He's so intense. Oh, you got to get him on the podcast. Okay, super nice guy, super cool. It was fun. He was like the last matches of the day because it was like no-gi beginner, like late in the afternoon. And he had this mean mug on him. And he was just trying to take dudes down. And then he'd get off the mat and be like, I don't know what I'm doing out there. I'm just going in there and doing a couple things I know how to do. But he's so strong. And he just knows, some people just have a good feel. Like you go to him and you're rolling with him and you say, oh, are you a wrestler? And they're like, no, I never wrestled before in my life. And you're like, that's really, really, you got a good feel. That's Kyle. Kyle is a good natural fighter. He's going to be fun to kick off the card. I can't wait to call that fight.
Oh, that's going to be freaking amazing because the guy that he's fighting, when Zack was making the matches, and he's telling the other guy's manager, hey man, this guy's he's played BYU. The guy's an athlete. The manager didn't even blink. He's facing a 6'4" military guy fighter. Like this is starting off our card on June 25th, Fierce Fighting Championship 20. The manager didn't even blink. He's like, I'm not even worried. I don't bring it. I'm like, oh man, like, I mean, are we going to be able to top the Fierce Challenger Series? The first couple fights on that card, like,
who knows, man?
Crazy.
That booth was crazy with Joel. We were screaming and shouting. I was jumping out of my seat the entire time. What's crazy about that is you really never know. We're on this total tangent of regional.
Yeah, like hey, it's all right.
But I gotta say, with debuters, sometimes you watch them and you're like, what? I think this is a one and done thing. What are you doing out here? But there's a lot of times, and especially when you get on these Fierce cards, like you have to be proven. Like you have to be someone who's like that guy. And so it's going to be very exciting to watch these two debuters because you never know what they're going to bring. And if they're on Fierce, they're good. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. And you got one guy coming from Agima and you got another guy coming up from Extreme Couture in Vegas. So, I mean, you got two guys that are going to bang. And Fiji, we will make a belt just for you. Does Fierce have a heavyweight AMI belt? Hey, Zack, I think we need to get Fiji a fight now that he's not moving to Florida.
That'd be sweet.
Just saying. All right, let's breeze through this card because I know you got to be out of here by 3:00.
I know.
We're still on the prelims. Next fight is in the strawweight division. It's a rematch between Felice Herrig against Karolina Kowalkiewski. It's a tongue twister. Herring is 14-9. She stands 5'4" with a 65-inch reach. Carolina is 12-7. She stands 5'3" with a 64-inch reach. Both girls on a little bit of a losing streak. What do you like here, Blake?
I like Carolina. It's as simple as this. There comes a time when it just seems like it might be over. And when I look at Felice's fights, I don't know if she still has. And again, like I've said on broadcast before and things like that, I respect every single fighter that comes out and gives it their all. But there comes a time when it's like, I don't know if you're who you used to be. I think of Tony Ferguson. It's like, even though he looked good against Chandler, but, there comes a time when it's like, I think, the wheels are starting to rust a little bit. And I think that's what's happening to Felice. Lost 3 in a row, 37 years old. It might be around that time where it might be time to hang up the gloves in total. But I do like Carolina in this one, fighter out of Poland. I think she does get it done. I do think she's the better striker as well.
I'm going to go with you on this one. I like Carolina as well. And I mean, both girls coming off of losing streaks. Carolina, what is she, 5 in a row? She lost her last 5 in a row, but she's not losing. She's losing to Jessica Penne, Xian Yang. She's losing to Alexa Grasso, Michelle Watterson, Jessica Andrade. So
legit. I mean, it's that Rose Namajunas record where you're like, oh, you have like 7 losses, and it's like, oh, it's the greatest women's fighters of all time, and then you win and beat them, again. So with that being said, I do think Felice does have a chance when it comes to the grappling side of things. I do think Felice is the better grappler, but I do think Carolina gets the win on this one.
Zack's taking Herrig by decision. I'll tell you how I like to, I don't hate that. I think the odds say it's a coin flip fight. When I'm looking at these coin flip fights and I'm looking at the odds and I see Felice is a minus 120, the comeback is plus 100. So even money on Carolina, I'm always going to take the fighter at plus money on these coin flip fights. Mm-hmm. If I'm a bet man, give me the plus money, because I don't see it could go either way.
Right. No, and that's really smart. I do like Felice on that. What Zack said about talking about the decision, because it very well could be, 3 rounds of really good, take your 3 takedowns away from the decision win, and, you snap that 3-fight losing streak. So I would say that if Felice, it does have a path to victory, it's those 3 takedowns, smother, take care of business on top, control, and, you come out of here snapping that losing streak.
Felice hasn't had a fight in almost 2 years as well.
Yeah.
So she's coming off a little bit of a layoff. I mean, she's 37 years old. Carolina's 36 years old. So they're about a year apart in age. But yeah, I'm gonna go Carolina on this one. So we are against you, Zack. Anytime we can bet against Zack. All right. This next fight should be really interesting. This is kicking off the main card in the light heavyweight division. Alonso Minifield against Asgar Mozzarov. Minifield is 11-3. He stands 6 foot tall with a 76-inch reach. Asgar Mozzarov, we don't really know what this guy's record is. I think it started off at like 21-7, and now it's 19-12. Stands 6'3". I don't know what his reach is because it's not listed. What's your thoughts on this fight?
I think when you see someone with this deep of a record coming in as a debuter, you have to wonder, are they really, really battle tested, or are they like just at the tail end of their career? And that's something that we're going to find out, and we'll see. But I do like Minifield in this one. I think he's the stronger fighter. I think he's the younger fighter. This is something that I've thought about a lot on this card. There's a lot of young up-and-comers on this card versus older fighters. And a lot of times what history tells us is the new up-and-coming ranks are the ones that end up winning those fights. They have new techniques. They're learning things all the time. They started a lot younger than maybe someone like Asgar might have, years ago when he started his fight career versus Minifield, who's been around and had significantly less fights. It's also the mileage. So all those things being said, I do think Alonso Minifield gets the win on this one and jumps back after that loss in his last fight.
So actually, Minifield is 7 years older than Asgar.
Is he?
Yeah. So Asgar's only 27 years old. And I was reading up a little bit about him because there's a little bit of controversy on his record. Like I mentioned, I was reading up about it. He said that he had taken some fights in China that He didn't know there was going to be on his record. I've even heard rumors that he's possibly thrown fights. I got to go Minifield, but he's a big 205er. Like, I mean, Minifield's big, right? Like
Minifield's huge. Yeah.
Asgar's he's bigger. He's taller. I would say he's just as stacked as Minifield is. I mean, maybe if I'm a betting man, I take Asgar as a betting man. Maybe he gets the win. He's coming off of a bare knuckle fight. He won his bare knuckle fight. He's making his UFC debut. I mean, this is his third attempt. He was supposed to fight Jordan Young back in 2021 in April. He was lined up against Ben Rothwell. He was lined up against Dustin Jacoby. So somebody thinks highly of him if they're throwing him there with a Dustin Jacoby or a Ben Rothwell right off the bat. I'm going to take a stab at it, man. I'm going to call an upset on this one. I'm going to say Asgar gets the win here.
You got to wonder. I mean, you mentioned the odd record and the weird things that have happened. You got to wonder what that does to a fighter. And it seems like with this guy who, again, you mentioned 7 years younger than Minifield.
Yeah.
He's already past 30 fights on his career.
A lot of fights. Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of fights. That's a lot of miles. And that's kind of what I meant. And you mentioned a certain fighter on there. That's one of my favorites. It's Jordan Young. I think that guy is one of the most fun, electric. He's the sweetest guy in the whole world too. He's crazy. So it was just you mentioning Jordan Young. I was just like, oh, I love that guy. So anyway, I'm gonna go with Minifield on this one.
Okay.
I feel like you're trying to like talk me into you saying that you think Asgar wins this fight.
I'm a big body. Like, I love watching, like, I can make picks, and Zack, he grills me. He hates it because I'll make picks on the podcast and then I'll go back and rewatch like the face-offs and the nightly face-offs. And then I change my pick because I like to see the body language. I like to see how they look after they rehydrate, and the only thing that worries me about Asgar, and he does have a ton of fights, right? But if you're looking at his record, the guy's fighting 3-0 guy, 3-3 guy, 0-0, 0-0, 0-2, 0-0, 0-0. Like, how much competition has the guy really faced? I don't know.
I get that. I definitely get that. I'll tell you a funny story about that. I'm the same way. I got to watch the weigh-ins. I got to watch all of it to make sure that I know what I'm getting myself into, what I'm watching. I text my buddy about it, who also watches MMA and trains at Agima, Boyd Abernathy.
Yeah.
And he told me, he was like, so it was the Yuri Prohaska, Dominic Reyes fight.
Okay.
And I sent him a clip and I was like, dude, look at Dom. I was like, look at Dom. He is broken mentally following those last two losses to John Jones and Jan Blachowicz. And he goes, dude, you're crazy. Like, you're way overthinking this. It's not that deep. And I was like, just watch. And Yuri goes in there and sends him to the shadow realm, man. So there is a lot to be said about what the weigh-ins look like and what these guys look like. Does a fighter look sucked out on the scale?
Yeah.
When Sean O'Malley lost to Chito Vera, he's never looked that bad on the scale, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, Sean is becoming so quickly the biggest star. I was like, I think he loses tomorrow night to Chito Vera. And he lost that fight. I mean, granted, it was a weird, it was weird thing, and he still considers himself undefeated, playing the heel. But there's things to be said about what someone looks like at a weigh-in, at the press conferences and all that stuff. You got to watch it.
All right, so I'm going to go against you guys. I'm going to take the Ukrainian, baby.
I feel like I've done a pretty good job matching Zack's picks on this.
Yeah, I hate that you agree with Zack, but whatever.
I've agreed with you on a couple.
All right, so
these days.
Next up in the flyweight division, somebody that we just saw a couple weeks ago cornering Will Gibson, Mr. Ode Osborne versus Zaruk Dashiv. Osborne is 10-4. He stands 5'7" with a 72-inch reach. Dashiv is 4-3. He stands 5'5" with a 65-inch reach. Who do you like on this one, Blake?
I like Ode. I really do. I think that he's just the more well-rounded fighter. And both coming off of a win, I think that whatever is going on in that camp with Will Gibson, Ode Osborne, all those guys over at Syndicate, I mean, I think that they've got something real special brewing over there. And I think that he's, just to be completely honest, the all-around better fighter. I think in almost, again, I'm going down these statistical categories and he continues to, surprise me. He does take a little bit more damage, but he also does grapple. What's his name? I'm just going to say the Lion because it's such a hard name to pronounce.
Dashiv.
Dashiv,
yeah.
and I feel bad doing that, but yeah.
That's fine.
It's 100% takedown average. And so you got to wonder, how good is the takedown defense? But I do think Ode Osborne is the better fighter. I think he's done more and definitely had the bigger moments in the UFC octagon itself. So I've got to go with Ode on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. Zack is with us as well. He picks Ode Osborne as well. So yeah, those syndicate guys have been bringing it.
They have really been bringing it. It's really, really fun to watch.
All right. Next up in the flyweight division, the women's flyweight division, we got Poliana Botello against Karine Silva. Botello is 8-4. She stands 5'8" with a 67-inch reach. Silva is 14-4. She stands 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. A little bit of a height disadvantage for Silva, but the reach is the same.
Yeah, I like Botello on this. It's the debut for Silva, and I do think Botello has a lot of really good attributes by her name. Definitely the better striker in a lot of ways, gets hit less, lands more shots, lands more accurately, a better defensive percentage, takedowns and things like that. The one thing though is Botello's got to make sure that she does not get caught in anything. Silva's main bread and butter is her submission game. And so I think that if Botello can, take care of that part and weather that storm, I think this is going to be a pretty nice win to turn Botello to 9-4. So yeah, I've got to go with Botello on this one. But it's going to be a good fight. It's definitely going to be one that will be interesting to watch, especially, considering you don't always see a whole lot of debuters near the top of these cards. I mean, this is the main card we're talking about.
Yeah, main
She's
card.
Making her debut for a reason. So it's going to be fun to watch, but I'm going to go with Botello.
I'm torn, man. The odds are pretty much dead even on this. I usually don't like the Contender Series people coming in, making their UFC debut after Contender Series win. For some reason, they just don't do very well. Poliana, she's got that UFC experience. I think that experience could be the difference. I'm going to go Poliana on this one. Zack thinks Karine is going to win by decision. I'm definitely not betting this, but I'm going to go Poliana. I just think that experience is going to be too much. But I think Silva could end up being a problem.
I do too. I think
even if she loses this, I think she could come back and you could see her rattling off some wins.
Yeah, this will be fun. I'm excited for that one. The next one is very interesting as well. Trisano and Almeida.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to run down these stats really quick for you?
Go right ahead. Yeah, man, go ahead.
So we've got Almeida with a 13-1 record, making his debut out of Brazil. The 5'11" fighter weighing in, walking around more so. I think this is fight day weight out of 161 pounds. Reach 171, the same to Trisano. Leg reach 41 inches to 40 for Trisano. Trisano, the 5'11" fighter, lost in his last fight. He's got a record of 10-2, and I gotta say I like Almeida in this. Trisano has had a few fights in the UFC. Yes, he's battle tested, but I wonder the level of competition that Trisano has faced, and if Lucas Almeida is on that same level that these other fighters have been. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I think Almeida might be the better fighter, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, because Almeida could very well get taken down by Trisano, and this is, a submission victory for Trisano. So this is one of those ones that's pretty tough. This is a very fun fight. It's a very appealing fight to me, but I'm going to go with Almeida as the underdog on this one.
Okay.
But that's probably my hottest take of the day so far.
You've come in with some good underdog picks on this one.
We try.
I like it, man. I like it. I love it. Zack says Trisano by decision is what he's thinking on this one. Let's see what the odds are on that.
It's a good point. Very good point.
Do you like the fight to go to the decision? or do you think it was a finish?
I do think it goes to a decision. And the more, yeah, that's a tough one. This is probably the closest one I've had so far where I'm not super like, oh yeah, I definitely see a path of victory for either fighter. And the more I think about it, the more I think towards Trisano, but I've already locked in Almeida and no broadcaster can ever go back. So
you can't go back on it.
You can't back out of it. I'll say Almeida. And if something happens, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I appreciate the input, Zach, because you're swaying me a little bit over here. So
I don't think he cruises to it. I actually think this is going to be a really close fight, and I think it goes to a decision. I mean, I think Trisano, it's going to be super close. I think Trisano will win a super close decision. I'll just put it at that. And I think that's just because of the experience in the UFC, right. Experience, being on the Ultimate Fighter. He's fought some, he's fought Hakeem Dawadi, just went to decision with Hakeem Dawadi in February. So I think it's close. I don't think he cruises to it.
I definitely think that there's something to be said about a fighter who has spent time, in the UFC, knows what the UFC fight week feels like, knows what it's like getting your bags checked, making sure all your tests are done correctly. The regional scene to the UFC is a whole different ball game. You've got all these new eyes on you. I think about fighters who just kind of crumble when they're under the pressure. If Almeida is one of those guys that at times, crumbles when the lights are the brightest, this is going to be a tough night for him. It's going to be a tough debut for him, especially so high on this card. David Kim, I freaking love you.
He's the GOAT.
I love David Kim.
We need to do a suplex class and go down and have David teach us a suplex class, because I'm going to learn how to do that suplex.
That was crazy. That was, funny story about that in the broadcast booth. You prepare so much trying to make sure that you have everything down packed so that when you go into the fight, it's as smooth as can be. You've got your color commentator or your color commentators, June 25th at Maverick Center. When David hit that unexpected suplex, and this is just completely honest, I forgot the name of what a suplex was for half a second. And I just said, huge. And then I just stopped talking. And then Joel goes, suplex by David Kim. And I was like, how did I forget the name of a suplex? Like I've said it a billion times, but I was so caught up in the moment. And also, it's just a funny thing. But yeah, David, I'm sorry. I kind of ruined the moment on the mic there for you. I wish I would have said huge suplex by Kim, but instead I just said huge. And then Joel Harrow had to pick up the rest of my crumbs. So
that was a great fight, by the way, too.
That was great.
We need to get David back in the cage.
Take it. We'll see how long it takes. And David's an animal, man. He's just one of the gems of local MMA here in Utah.
He really is. I've said it on the podcast even before his fight. He is my favorite up and coming fighter. Just his attitude about the sport. He's just a great guy. He's always smiling. I mean, he was smiling the night of the weigh-ins. He's smiling the whole time. The night of the fight, he's smiling the whole time. After the fight, he's smiling. Just a great guy.
So David's saying that he was planning on it the entire camp. If I would have known that, I would have had suplex stapled on my forehead. So every morning when I woke up, I remembered it. Goodness gracious!
You got to get in. You got to get in there and get us that insider information from those Agema guys.
I can't do that. I stay as neutral as I can on every single person. I think I said during an Agema fighter thing, I was like, Joel, I know you've spent some time with him, and I'm like, I've done 100 rounds with this guy.
It's hard, man. It's hard especially when your friends are in there. Like calling Joel's fight when he was fighting, I'm like, man, I mean, I've been training with the kid for a year and a half, and I got to try not to be partial. You know what I mean? It's super hard, man. It's really hard.
It's hard, but when you're prepared and you're in the moment enough, it does make it easier. The first time I called for a friend's fight, it was probably the hardest I've ever had. It's the hardest it's ever been. I knew that this Challenger series was filled with Agema fighters, and I just had to turn it off. And you can, but when the fight's over, you go, man, But that's part of the job. That's in the job description.
Do you want to read off the stats for this co-main event?
Oh man, we got a good one here. We've got a good one here. So we've got Dan 50K Ige out of Hawaii. Now he fights out of Vegas, but from Hawaii. 15-5 record, lost his last fight. He's actually lost a couple in the last couple of years, standing at 5'7", 159 pounds with a 71-inch reach and a 38-inch leg reach versus Movsar Evloev, 15-0, the undefeated fighter out of Russia, standing 5'7", the same as Ige, a little bit heavier at 162 pounds, walking around, a 72.5 reach, so a 1.5 reach advantage, I should say, over Ige, as well as a 2-inch disadvantage in leg reach at 36 inches. You know, this one's pretty easy for me. I'll give it to you, and then I'll go from. I've been talking a lot, so go ahead.
Oh, I you know me, I don't bet against the Russians, so I'm going Evloev. You know what? I actually was I was actually thinking of sprinkling a little bit on Ige because the odds. I mean, Evloev's a -400. Comeback is +310 on Ige. I thought about sprinkling a little bit. Ige can crack, but then I saw the face off and I saw Evloev with his, "Hey, I respect you, but tomorrow I'm going to smash you." Mm-hmm. And anybody that says that, that's the Khabib. Tomorrow night, I'm going to smash your boy.
I'm going to smash your boy.
Yeah, I think Evloev just, I think he just grinds out a victory. The rest, the wrestling, the top pressure, it's going to be too much.
Sometimes the betting odds are a little bit swayed due to fame, due to things like that.
100%.
I think of the money line of like Conor McGregor versus Khabib back in the day. And hindsight, 20, but that was very clearly like, wow, like Conor really had, a lot going for him back then. A lot of times money lines don't lie. And so when they're close, it's going to be a close fight. And they're really, really good at their research, figuring out who we think is going to win this fight. Evloev is a -410 for a reason. The guy is going to take down Dan Ige. I love Dan Ige. I love watching him fight. It's a blast to watch him fight, but he gets taken down by strikers. What's he going to do when he goes up against Evloev? I think that Evloev is going to be a scary name in a couple of years. And again, like I said earlier on in the podcast, and for Evloev, it's even closer because he's already in a co-main event on a fight night. I think he's going to make his name tomorrow night. I really do.
A funny story about Dan Ige. So Zack and I had an opportunity to go down to Extreme Couture, and one of the guys that we sponsor down there and watched him train, Aleko, shout out to my boy Aleko. And Dan Ige was in the cage and they were doing their little MMA rounds. And so Zack and I, there's 2 chairs outside the cage and we're hanging out watching, and Dan Ige keeps looking over at Zack and I, just looking over at us. And we're just both just like, oh shit. Like, Dan Ige's like, what the heck are these 2 guys doing in here watching me fight? And thankfully, after he was done, Aleko introduces us, and he's just the nicest guy. Yeah. But from looking at us from the outside, he did not like the fact that we were watching him train. It was, did not want to get on his bad side, but ended up being cool, super respectful, super nice guy. I'm rooting for him, but I think this is just a bad matchup.
I completely agree. I think it's just a tough matchup for him. I think he's still very much so a fighter who can fight, against UFC competition. I just think Evloev is going to be one of those top contenders. He's going to be a Giga Chikadze or, Ryan Ortega in a couple of years in that featherweight division. So, hats off to Dan Ige. I think he's super fun to watch. You ready for this main event?
Let's do it, man. Main event time, baby. Did you see the face-off on this one?
I haven't yet. I have been so jam-packed with work. I have not seen it. So I height difference.
It's crazy. What's Rozenstruik 6'2", Volkov 6'7"?
Yeah.
It looks much more than that.
This is such an interesting fight. And I've been back and forth for the last couple of days knowing that we were going to be doing this. It's so tough for me because Rozenstruik coming into the UFC was the guy who people thought could beat Francis Ngannou. He was the undefeated striker, and he was this scary person. But now he's lost 3 fights in a row, and now he's going up against a veteran in Alexander Volkov. And there is that height differential. But I got to be honest with you. I really, really think that Jairzinho gets away with the win on this one. I really, really do. Jairzinho, just a little bit less miles on him, considering how much Volkov has dealt with. Yeah. I also constantly think about Volkov getting knocked out by Derek Lewis. And when you have heavy hands like that, I know Derek Lewis is a whole nother game, but Jairzinho Rozenstruik is a very, very good striker. And if he can land, and if he can use a little bit more head movement around Volkov, I think very few times do I take the puncher's chance, but I like Jairzinho's puncher's chance on this one.
I mean, this should be a stand-up fight, right? I mean, these guys are both kickboxing backgrounds, if I'm not mistaken, right? They're both stand-up guys.
Both kickboxing backgrounds. Volkov definitely does have a little bit more grappling, though, than Jairzinho.
Is Volkov, do you feel like Volkov is at that, is he a top tier heavyweight, or do you think he's more of a middle tier heavyweight? I'm looking, and the reason I say that is I'm looking at his record, and he's beaten a lot of guys, but he's losing. And the only guys that he's losing to are Curtis Blades, Cyril Gane, Francis Ngannou. Maybe he's beaten the Overeems, he's beaten the JDSs, he's beaten the Augusta Sakai's. So where do you put him? I guess where do you put Rozenstruik in that thing? Is he up there with the Cyril Ganes, or is he more into that middle tier? Augusta Sakai, JDS, Overeem, Malowski. Is he more into that area? Where do you put Rozenstruik?
I pulled up the rankings right now because I wanted to make sure I got as accurate as possible on this. I look at Francis down to number 6 in Tom Aspinall. I really think that those are the 7 best heavyweights in the world, and there's not one past that that's better than those guys. I think Tom Aspinall was the last one that really, edged his way into that top tier of heavyweights. Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis, Tom Aspinall, Tai Tuivasa, Stipe Miocic, Cyril Gane, and Francis Ngannou. I don't think that either of these guys break through. Neither of these guys can beat those guys in the top 6. And a lot of people have been saying that about this specific fight. The winner of this, like, who do you really fight after this? Because neither of them are going to compete for the heavyweight strap. Who I think has less miles on him, who I think has faced tough competition, but not as much tough competition. I think it's Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And Rozenstruik is still young. I think that there's a lot of time for him left to continue to grow. And so I'm going to say that Rozenstruik, builds a little bit off of this win against Alexander Volkov, despite the fact that Volkov has looked pretty darn good in his last couple fights. But one fun fact is neither of these guys have ever lost 2 fights in a row in the UFC.
Interesting.
Neither of them have ever lost 2 in a row. So both of these guys facing that on this fight night. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, I keep going back and forth because I get what you're saying. The Rozenstruik, he could be faster. You could see him kind of picking him apart and moving around. And I could also see, Zack and I talked about it before we got on the podcast, I could see Volkov using that range, using that teep kick, that front kick to keep that distance. He could keep it ugly, getting him up against the fence, keeping him crowded. It could be an ugly fight. I'm going to go Volkov by decision. I mean, Zack's got Volkov by decision. I'm going to follow that, but I'm not. This is a tough card to bet, in my opinion.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I just don't see anything that stands out on this card that's like, okay, other than Blanchfield.
Blanchfield is the name. Yeah.
And Zack, not to cut you off here, Zack's he says bet the house on Blanchfield, Jackson, Evolov parlay. Bet the house. Zack is all in on that.
Yep. 100%.
I love that too.
100%.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. What were
you? No. You're all good. I don't even know what I was going to be saying. If you're good. But Jairzinho, I do think I like Jairzinho. If Volkov to a decision is interesting, but I do think Jairzinho has one of the better puncher's chances that we've seen recently. And we'll see what happens. Again, a lot of these fights are very, very close, and a lot of them are going to be a lot of those. Is the younger fighter going to get the win, or is the older, polished fighter with 35 fights on his record going to win? We'll see what happens. But I'm going to go with Jairzinho. I've kind of picked more of the youth today. And so with that being said, I'm going to go with Jairzinho.
Actually, Rozenstruik's older than Volkov, if you believe it or not.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is some of these guys, Zack, Rozenstruik is so overrated. I agree. Zack, like I was saying, the guy came into the UFC, I think it was 11-0, or no, it would have been 10-0, and he's gone back and forth. But all those losses have been against the absolute best in the world. Same with Volkov. So
yeah, it's another one, and the Vegas odds say it too because it's I think they got Volkov a -160. The comeback is +140. I don't hate the Rozenstruik pick. I could actually see him winning.
I could see Volkov winning for sure. Yeah. Especially when you mention those teeps to the body, and Volkov does move better. 100%, he does move better. So we'll see. But I agree with you, Zack. Rozenstruik is overrated. I think Volkov is a little overrated.
Yeah.
As well. I mean, but again, both of these guys are the B tier if you're talking about Tom Aspinall, Derek Lewis, Curtis Woods. You know, these guys are a level below that. And so it'll be a good night of fights. I'm excited.
I'm stoked, man. I'm stoked. We didn't get fights last weekend, so we got fights. There's some LFA fights on. There's a guy that I got to watch train. I went down to the Bang Muay Thai headquarters to watch Joel do some training before his last fight. And there's a kid down there that's fighting, making his pro debut tonight that I'm really looking forward to see fighting because he's pretty legit.
That'll be so much fun.
Yeah.
Jason, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming on, man. We obviously, I know Zach and I've already talked about it, man. We'd love to have you on again. It's been great.
I would love to. I would love to when I don't have such a crazy work week and I could do a little bit more homework on these guys.
Yeah.
I would love to really get in on like a pay-per-view or something like that.
Well, we have a bunch of fighter spotlights coming up because we have that June 25th card that we got a ton of jiu-jitsu players that we have that want to come on. We got all the fighters that want to come on. So maybe we can get you in on a couple little fighter spotlight podcasts.
Count me in. My full-time job is literally interviewing people. So you're all good.
Yes. Yes. All right, man. Blake, thank you very much for joining me today. Special shout out. Happy 12th birthday to my beautiful daughter, Shaylee. Love you. That's it, man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, everybody.
My man. All right. Take it easy, Blake. I'll get this uploaded. You guys can listen to it on Spotify, iTunes, all the podcast platforms. We out, baby.